Chapter 4 of Martha by the Day by Julie M. Lippmann. This Librivox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 4. It did not take long, once Claire was fairly on her feet again, to adjust herself to her new surroundings, to find her place and part in the social economy of the little family group where she was never for a moment made to feel an alien. She appropriated a share in the work of the household at once, insisting, to Martha's dismay, upon lending a hand mornings with the older children, who were to be got off to school, and with the 3-year-old Sabina, who was to stay at home. She assisted with the breakfast preparations, and then, when the busy swarm had flown for the day, she turned to Ma's delight, and got the place rid up, so that it was clean as a whistle and neat as a pin. Ma was not what Martha approvingly called a hustler. "Ma ain't thorough," her daughter-in-law confided to Claire without reproach. "She means well, but, as she says, her mind ain't fixed on things below, and when that's the case the dirt is bound to settle. Ma thinks you can run a family reading the Bible and singing hymns. Well, perhaps you can, only I ain't never dared try. When I married Sammy he looked dreadful peaky, the fact being he'd never been properly fed, and it's me took all of the going on. 15 years now we been living together to get him filled up according to his appetite, which is heavy. You see, Ma never had any time to attend to such earthly matters as cooking a square meal, but she's setting out to have a lot of leisure with the Lord." As for Ma, she found it pleasant to watch, from a comfortable distance, the work progressing satisfactorily without any draught on her own energies. "Martha's a good woman, miss," she observed judicially in her detached manner, "but she is like the lady of her name we read about in the blessed book. When I set out in life I chose the better part, and now I'm old I have the faith to believe I'll have a front seat in heaven. I've knew trouble in me day. I raised 10 children, and I had 3 failings, and God knows I think I earned a front seat in heaven." Claire's pause before she spoke seemed to Ma to indicate she was giving the subject the weighty consideration it deserved. "According to that, it would certainly seem so. You have rheumatism too, haven't you?" As if that might be regarded as an added guarantee of special celestial reservation. Ma paled visibly. "No, miss, I don't ever have the rheumatism now, not so you'd notice it," she said plaintively. "Once I'd it terrible, and my son Sammy had it too, likewise, fierce. I'd used to lay in bed moaning and crying till you'd be surprised, and my son Sammy he was almost as bad. Well, for a week or 2, Martha, she done for us the best she could, I suppose, but she didn't make for to stop the pain. And at last, one night, when my son Sammy was grunting and I was groaning to beat the band, Martha she up all of a sudden, and says she was going for to cure us of the rheumatiz, or know the reason why. And she went and got the kerosene can, and she poured out 2 terrible big doses, and she stood over me, son Sammy and I, till we swallowed it down, and ever since we took it, me and Sammy ain't never had a return. Sometimes I have a sharp twinge of something in my leg or my arm, but it ain't rheumatiz, and I wouldn't like for me son Sammy's wife to be knowing it, for the very sight of her starting for the kerosene, if it's only to fill the lamp, is enough to make me gullop, and I know it's the same with my son Sammy, though we never mention the subject between us." "But if your son didn't want to take the stuff," Claire said, trying to hide her amusement, "why didn't he stand up and say so? He's a man. He's much bigger and stronger than his wife. How could she make him do what he didn't want to?" The question was evidently not a new one to Ma. "That's what anyone'd naturally think," she returned promptly, "but that's because they wouldn't be knowing me son Sammy's wife. It ain't size, and it ain't strength. It's just, well, Martha, there's that about her you wouldn't like to take any chances with. Perhaps it's the thing Manny does be talking of these days. Perhaps it's that got a holt of her. Anyhow, she says she's in for it. They does be calling it woman's suffrage. I'm told in my day a decent body'd have thought shame to be discoursing in public to the men. They held their tongues and let their betters do the colloquian. But Martha says some of the ladies she works for says if they talk about it enough the men will give them their rights and let 'em vote. I'm an old woman and I never had much book learning, but I'm thinking one like me son Sammy's wife has all the rights she needs without the voting, She goes out working, same's me son Sammy, day in, day out. She says Sammy could support her good enough, but she won't raise her children in a tenement along with low companions. My son Sammy, he has it hard these days. You'd not be able to pay for such a grand flat as this in a decent, quiet neighbourhood, and so Martha turns to and lends a hand. And once, when my son Sammy was sick and out of a job entirely, Martha, she run the whole concern herself. She wouldn't let my son Sammy give up or get downhearted like he might have done. She said it was her right to care for us all, and him too, being he was down and out like he was. Seems to me that's fairly all the rights any woman would want, to look out for 4 children and a man and a mother-in-law. But if Martha wants to vote too, why, I'm thinking she will. It was particularly encouraging to Claire just at this time to view Martha in the light of one who did not know the meaning of the word fail, for Mrs. Slawson had assured her that if she would give up all attempt to find employment on her own account, she, Mrs. Slawson, felt she could safely promise to get her a job that would be satisfactory all round, only one must be a little passionate. But a week, 10 days had gone by since Martha announced she had an idea, and still the idea had not materialized. Meanwhile, Claire had ample time to unpack her trunk and settle her belongings about her, so the pretty lady's room took on a look of real comfort, and the children never passed the door without pausing before the threshold, waiting with bated breath for some wonderful chance that would give them a peek into the enchanted chamber. As a matter of fact, the transformation was effected with singularly few properties: some good photographs tastefully framed in plain dark wood, a Baghdad rug left over from her college days, some scraps of charming old textiles, and such few of the precious home trifles as could be safely packed in her trunk. There was a daguerreotype of her mother, done when she was a girl. "As old-fashioned as your grandmother's hoop skirt," Martha called it, a sampler wrought by some ancient great-aunt, both aunt and sampler long since yellowed and mellowed by the years, a Della Robbia plaque with its exquisite swaddled baby holding out eager arms as if to be taken, a lacquer casket, a string of Egyptian mummy beads, what seemed to the children an inexhaustible stock of wonderful, mysterious treasures. But the object that appeared to interest their mother more than anything else in the whole collection was a book of unmounted photographs, snapshots taken by Claire at college during her travels abroad, some few even here in the city during those first days when she had dreamed it was easy to walk straight into an art editorship and no questions asked. Mrs. Slawson scrutinized the prints with an earnestness so eager that Claire was fairly touched, until she discovered that here was no aching hunger for knowledge, no ungratified yearning for to admire and for to see, for to behold this world so wide, but just what looked like a perfectly feminine curiosity and nothing more. "Say, ain't it a pity you ain't any real good likeness of you?" Martha deplored. "These is so aggravating. They don't show you up at all. Just a taste like, and then nothing to squench the appetite." "That sounds as if I were an entree or something," laughed Claire. "But you see, I don't want to be shown up, Martha. I couldn't bear it, as my friend Sary Gamp would say. When I was little, my naughty big brother used to tease me dreadfully about my looks. He invented the most embarrassing nicknames for me. He alluded to my features with every sort of disrespect. It made me horribly conscious of myself, a thing no properly constituted kiddie ought ever to be, of course, and I've never really got over the feeling that I'm a sawed off, that my nose is curly, and my hair's a wig, and that the least said about the rest of me the better. But if you'd actually like to see something my people at home consider rather good, why, here's a little tinted photograph I had done for my dear Daddy the last Christmas he was with us. He liked it, and that's the reason I carry it about with me, because he wore it on his old-fashioned watch chain." She put into Martha's hand a thin, flat, dull gold locket. Mrs. Slawson opened it and gave a quick gasp of delight, the sound of triumph escaping one who, having diligently sought, has satisfactorily found. "Like it!" Martha ejaculated. Claire deliberated a moment, watching the play of expression on Martha's mobile face. "If you like it as much as all that," she said at last, "I wish you'd take it and keep it. It seems conceited, priggish, to suppose you'd care to own it." but if you really would care to—" Mrs. Slosson closed one great, finely formed, work-hardened fist over the delicate treasure with a sort of ecstatic grab of appropriation. "Care to own it? You bet your life there's nothing you couldn't give me that I'd care to own better," she said with an honest feeling, then and there tying its slender ribbon about her neck and slipping the locket inside her dress as if it had been a precious amulet. The day following saw her started bright and early for work at the Shermans'. When she arrived at the area gate and rang, there was no response, and though she waited a reasonable time and then rang and rang again, nobody answered the bell. "They must be up," she said, settling down to business with a steady thumb on the electric button. "What ails a bunch of them in the kitchen, I should like to know? It'd be a pity to disturb Eliza. She might be busy getting herself an extra cup of coffee and couple of fried hams and eggs to break her fast before breakfast. But that gay young sprig of a kitchen maid, she might answer the bell and open the door to an honest woman." The gay young sprig still failing of her duty, and Martha's patience giving out at last, the honest woman began to tamper with the spring lock of the iron gate. For anyone else it would never have yielded, but it opened to Martha's hand as with the dull submission of the conquered. Mrs. Slosson closed the gate after her with care. "I'll just step light," she said to herself, "and steal in on 'em unbeknownst, and give 'em as good a scare as ever they had in their lives, the whole lazy lot of 'em." But, like Mother Hubbard's cupboard, the kitchen was bare, and no soul was to be found in the laundry, the pantry, or in fact anywhere throughout the basement region. Softly, and with some real misgiving now, Martha made her way upstairs. Here, for the first time, she distinguished the sound of a human voice breaking the early morning hush of the silent house. It was Radcliffe's voice, issuing evidently from the dining-room, in which imposing apartment he chose to have his breakfast served in solitary grandeur every morning, what time the rest of his family still slept. Martha, pausing on her way up, peeped around the edge of the half-closed door and then stopped short. Along the wall, ranged up in line like soldiers facing their captain, or victims of a hold-up, their captor, stood the household servants: portly Shaw, the butler, Beatrice, the parlour-maid, Eliza, the chef-cook, all down to the gay young sprig aforesaid, who, as Martha had explained to her family in strong disapproval, was engaged to do scullery work, and then didn't even know how to scull. Before them, in an attitude of command, not to say menace, stood Radcliffe, brandishing a carving-knife which, in his cruelly mischievous little hand, became a weapon full of dangerous possibilities. "Don't dare to budge, any one of you," he breathed masterfully to his cowed regiment. "Get back there, you, Shaw, and Beatrice, if you don't mind me, I'll carve your ear off. You'd better be afraid of me, all of you, and mind what I say, or I'll take this dagger and dag the light out of you. You're all my servants, you're all my slaves. Do you hear me?" Evidently they did, and not one of them cared or dared to stir. For a second Radcliffe faced them in silence, before beginning to march Napoleonically back and forth, his savage young eye alert, his knotty hand brandishing the knife threateningly. A second, and then, suddenly, without warning, the scene changed, and Radcliffe was a squirming, wriggling little boy, shorn of his power, grasped firmly in a grip from which there was no chance of escape. "Shame on you!" exclaimed Martha indignantly, addressing the spellbound line staring at her blankly. "Shame on you, to stand there gawking and never raising a finger to this poor little fella, and him just perishing for the touch of a real mother's hand. Get out of this, the whole crowd of you." And before the force of her righteous wrath, they fled as chaff before the wind. Then, quick as the automatic click of a monstrous spring, the hitherto unknown, the supposed to be impossible, befell Radcliffe Sherman. He was treated as if he had been an iron girder on which the massive clutch of a steam-lift had fastened. He was raised, lowered, laid across what seemed to be two moveless iron trestles, and then the weight, as of a mighty relentless paddle, beat down upon him once, twice, thrice, and he knew what it was to suffer. The whole thing was so utterly novel, so absolutely unexpected that for the first instant he was positively stunned with surprise. Then the knowledge that he was being spanked, that an unspeakable indignity was happening him, made him clench his teeth against the sobs that rose in his throat, and he bore his punishment in white-faced, shivering silence. When it was over, Martha stood him down in front of her, holding him firmly against her knees, and looked him squarely in the eyes. His colourless, quivering lips gave out no sound. "You've got off easy," observed Mrs. Slosson benevolently. "If you'd been my boy, Sammy, you'd a got about twice as much and 3 times as thorough. As it is, I just kind of favoured you, give you a lick and a promise, as you might say, seeing it's you and you ain't used to it yet. Besides, I really like you and want you to be a good boy. But if you should need any more at any other time, why, you can take it from me I keep my hand in on Sammy, and practice makes perfect." She released the 2 small trembling hands, rose to her feet, and made as if to leave the room. Then, for the first time, Radcliffe spoke. "Say," he breathed with difficulty, "say, are you going to tell?" Martha paused, regarding him and his question with due concern. "Tell? Are you going to tell on me? To everybody? Are you going to tell Sammy?" "Sure I'm not. I'm a perfect lady. I always keep such little affairs of my gentlemen friends strictly confidential. Besides, Sammy has troubles of his own." End of chapter 4, read by Sandra.